On a dark and stormy night, the wind howled, and the rain pounded on the roof of my car as I drove alone on a desolate highway. I was on my way to visit my family in a remote town, feeling a mix of excitement and unease. The storm had turned the night into an eerie, isolated journey. As I drove, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. I glanced at it and read, "Call me. I am the person who has been monitoring you for a while." My heart skipped a beat. How could someone be monitoring me? Who was this person, and what did they want? Despite my fear, I dialed the number, my voice trembling. "Who are you? What do you want?" I asked when the call connected. The voice on the other end was calm but menacing. "I know you're on your way to visit your family. If you want to survive, you must follow my instructions carefully." Before I could respond, a car suddenly appeared behind me, its headlights blinding me. It overtook my car with lightning speed, almost forcing me off the road. I screamed in terror, my heart racing. What was happening? Who was behind all this? I tried to focus on the road, my hands shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. I knew I had to stay calm and get to my family's home as quickly as possible. But with each passing mile, the fear grew stronger. Finally, I arrived at my family's home, relieved to see familiar surroundings. But my relief was short-lived. As I stepped out of the car, my phone rang. It was the police. They had received a report about a suspicious vehicle following me on the highway. They wanted to check if I was safe. I was shaken but grateful for their call. I told them about the mysterious text message and the car that had overtaken me. The police promised to investigate, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. The events of the evening kept replaying in my mind. Who was monitoring me? Why were they following me? And most importantly, were they still out there, watching and waiting? Welcome to the channel, everyone. If you're new here and enjoy listening to horror stories, consider subscribing. Also, please drop a like on this video before we get started. It would mean a lot. I am your channel host. Let's begin. 2 years ago, when my artistic daughter had trouble sleeping at night, she was 3 years old at the time. I would toss her into the car seat and drive her around. It was one of the only ways she would fall asleep soundly. I lived with my parents in a nice neighborhood. One night, I'm driving, and my girl had fallen asleep finally. It's about 8 p.m. at this point, so I'm hungry and want to let her fall into a deeper sleep so I can move her and get her out of the car. I get some food from a drive-thru and pull over onto a side street right next to the restaurant so I can eat. I'm finishing eating and looking back to check on my kid, and suddenly, these super bright headlights pull up behind me, like super close. I wave apologetically. None of my windows are tinted, and I used to drive a Jeep Compass, so the back window was big enough for them to see me well. I waved apologetically, assuming whoever it is was trying to park at the house I was currently in front of. So I pull away and start down the street. Once I'm at the end of the block and around the corner, I see the headlights again, but now they are too close for me to see the make of the car, and the high beams were switched on, so I can't see anything behind me. I curse myself for not paying better attention to the car before. I didn't want to be crazy paranoid, so I took a few unnecessary side streets. I went around my neighborhood a couple of times, only for this person to be behind me, turn for turn, and lane change for lane change. I began to panic and called my dad. I know I should have called the police, but I was 21 at the time and did the first thing that I could think of, my dad. He was at work 30 minutes away. He has terrible reception and decides to call me back on the landline at his work. He is on his cell phone with the sheriff's department for our neighborhood, and they tell me to drive to the station immediately, even if the sedan keeps following me there. It's been close to 40 minutes since the person had started following me and kept riding me closer and closer. I'm running lights and swerving around at this point, just trying to catch someone's attention. So, I drive to the station, and no one is there. Not one single car, no cruisers, no one in the department office, and not even any cars in the small parking lot. They want me to pull into the lot and wait for an officer. So, I'm all alone. My 3-year-old is now fussing in the back seat, and there is only one way in or out of this parking lot. I pass the station and tell my dad to tell the officer on the phone to get lost, because no one was there. I was freaking out and panicking, big time now, because I knew that the second I stopped the vehicle and got out to go in the station, which clearly had no lights on or anyone there, I was most likely going to have something seriously bad happen to me by whoever was driving the sedan following me around. I see a sheriff's car eventually at the light ahead and start to honk and flash my lights as he drives across the intersection I am driving to. He either misses me or just ignores it. It's now been a little over an hour, and I thought I had some hope, but the police officer just drives straight past me in the opposite direction. This person must have hit the back end of the car 4 times as well, very lightly, but they were trying to intimidate me. Eventually, I see another sheriff's car and just lay on my horn. I think he caught on because he busts a U-turn and comes towards us. As he did, the car behind me disappeared into the mall across the street and the officer followed. I was instructed to go back to the station and wait, so I did. Eventually, I was waiting so long, I went inside, and this was a triple locking door on my car. I was terrified. The officer had no one accepted, no emergency phone on the desk, and that only connected me to other extensions. To wrap this story up, they made me feel crazy and said they never found the car. They said that all they could do was take a statement, since technically nothing really happened. It took me 2 days to sleep again at night, and to this day, I refuse to do night drives with my daughter anymore unless I have someone in the car with me. What were the police doing? Why was no one on patrol, and those that were just seemed to ignore me? The car that followed the sedan clearly didn't stop it, or maybe it did, and just questioned the car, thinking that they were the ones holding their horn and not me. The whole situation had me freaked out big time, and it was clear to me these people were stalking me and had some other motives or motivation as to what they wanted to do with me or the car I was driving. It was creepy. There's just something about driving at night that's so much scarier. I don't know if it's the visibility, the street lights, I don't know, but I won't be doing it again, that's for sure. I was headed home, looking forward to a hot meal and a good night's rest, but fate had other plans for me. I had driven this journey for years with no problems. This one night was a little different. I was driving back, and everything seemed normal until up ahead, I saw the flashing lights of a construction zone. The traffic slowed to a crawl, and I knew I was in for a long wait. As I approached the detour, I saw a sign directing me off the main road and into a small village. As I made my way down the road, I thought I knew a shortcut and turned off to another small village. The streets were deserted, and the silence was eerie. I passed a few closed shops and houses, all dark and lifeless. But then something caught my eye. A man was lying on the ground outside one of the shops. My instincts kicked in, and I pulled over to check on him. As I got closer, I could see that he was injured, bleeding from his head. I heard the sound of footsteps approaching from around the corner. I didn't think anything of it, assuming it was just someone passing by. Then 3 men came into view. They looked tough and intimidating, and I could feel my heart racing as they approached me. "What are you doing here?" one of them demanded. I tried to explain that I had just stopped to help the injured man, but the injured man stood up and joined the other men, wiping the blood off with a cloth one of the men handed him. It was fake blood. I couldn't believe what was happening. Suddenly, one of them lunged at me, grabbing the keys from my hand and running to my car. The other 3 searched me, taking my phone and money, and then followed the other man to my car. They all climbed in, ready to speed away. I was shocked and afraid, but I knew I couldn't let them get away with my car. Without thinking, I ran after them, determined to get my car back. They sped away down the narrow road, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I chased after them. I didn't know what to do, but I couldn't just stand there and let them get away. I sprinted after them, adrenaline pumping through my veins. I could hear the engine revving as they picked up speed, but I refused to give up. They managed to get away. I was no match for a car at that speed. I knocked on several doors and shops until I realized that the place was a ghost town. The houses didn't look like they had been used in years, and the shops looked like they had been closed for a long time. As I was walking through the village, trying to find some sort of help, I saw a small house with candlelight flickering in the window. I approached the door, and an elderly man came to see what was going on. I explained my situation, and he told me he would drive me to the nearest town. In the car, he explained they didn't have phones there anymore, and most of the people left the village in the 90s, but he liked it there and refused to leave. As we got to the next village, we stopped at a payphone where I phoned the police. The police came and took a statement and drove me to the station. They had luckily managed to pick up the car a few miles away after stopping it for driving erratically just before I called them. Once they had worked out it was the same car, they let me know and said they would bring the car back to the station for me. As I drove away, my mind raced with what had happened. Who were those men, and what did they want? It was a close call, and I knew that I had narrowly escaped a dangerous situation. But I was grateful to have my car back and to have made it out of the small village unscathed.